After a long winter, the boys of spring take the field again. The Atlantic League preview coming now on the IndieWire Report podcast. We're back with the bonus edition of the podcast. Ryan, noted baseball superstar, potential future bullpen catcher, and myself, we're here. We're not going to be talking about any of that today. We're going to talk about that tomorrow when we record the main pod because we're efficient. And today, we're instead going to focus on the Atlantic League because their season started on Tuesday. It is now Wednesday. You will hear this on Thursday. So we might as well talk some Atlantic League preview ball. We have 10 teams to get through. We're going to try to get this done in, I'd say, 90 minutes or less, and I think that's a very achievable goal.
Oh, yeah, sure. Why not? Why not an hour? We can do anything.
Why not 15 minutes?
It's going to be a lot easier because I am trading in the role of stat guy for vibes guy because with all the Frontier League stuff going on, I am so unprepared. This is going to be the first time I'm seeing some of these rosters, so this is going to be a whole new – it's going to be a whole new vibe for
a whole new world.
And also, I think completely different than the rest of the season previews, which is funny. I usually go the other way. Usually by the Pioneer League, I'm just winging it. The Pioneer League, I've at least been somewhat paying attention to. The Atlantic League, I was like, certainly I'll get there. Certainly I will. Of course. No, idiot.
Yes, any event. Welcome to the vibe side of things. Vibes are always king here. So I'm just happy we're going to have a classic vibe episode. It's been a while since we've really had that. Since we've had about, I guess, 5 years of stat people co-hosting this show, disgusting as that is. But now we're just back to vibes. So yeah, that's how you know we're going to have some pretty accurate shit here because vibes are king in indie ball, as we all know.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to say I'm going to do a more detailed one on my own channel, but how late am I really going to let that go? Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just go right to it from American Association. I mean, look, here's the thing. How much of a stat deep dive am I really supposed to do in the Atlantic League when they don't have a stat page?
Ooh, we want to talk about it today or do we want to talk about it tomorrow?
I think it has to be at least mentioned up front here because it's relevant.
That's pretty fair. Yeah, so the Atlantic League on opening day, you would think would be all ready and raring to go. And that's just not quite the case here. Obviously, point streak's not doing baseball for anybody anymore. So everybody's in the process of getting their stats all figured out. The Atlantic League, who starts before everybody else, I guess is at a bit of a disadvantage here because, well, they have to figure it out sooner. They didn't really figure that out. To make matters worse, not only do they not have live stat keeping, they also do not have live actual game scores. And up until about a couple hours ago, at the time we're recording this, they finally do have some skeleton of a website up. Doesn't really do much, but
it looks good. Doesn't do a lot.
Does not describe a lot of things.
No.
All right, fine then. Just let it die right there.
Sorry, I had one more thing, which was how long they waited to make a statement about it.
They did wait a minute.
Like, I mean, it was like already the start of game 2, I feel like.
It was well into game 2.
Okay.
It was well into it.
So enough people complained, and they were like, oh, this is not a great look. Because I know the former players blown up. I had some funny input. The DMs were lighting up, I'll tell you that much.
Oh, last night when I posted the final scores on the Instagram, I had a lot of people going, where'd you get those box scores?
Yeah, for real. Like there's multiple like players being like so brutal. I'm having to find out who's on my own team from like what I'm posting.
We'll try to bring it back to the actual play on the field.
Yeah.
Which you can see on Home Team for $75 for the season. Which, could be better, could be worse.
Let's get to this season preview.
Yeah, that seems good. So we're going to start it off with Southern Maryland, and then we're going to work our way around here. The Blue Crabs. I think there's some interesting pieces overall in the team here. It kind of gives me a little bit of 2025 Lexington vibes in some of their decision making, I will say. I'm used to seeing a Southern Maryland team too, that I look at it, I'm impressed by their pitching, and I go, I wonder how the offense is going to work itself out here. Kind of feels the flip to me, to be honest. I like Brasino coming back. Kealoha is always a nice addition as well. I believe they also got a 5'4" pitcher, if I read the website correctly, which, interesting. But any case, that's really about it. Connor Overton, too. I should mention him as well. Those are really the bulk of the pitchers for Southern Maryland that I am overly, impressed by or stand out to me. Lineup wise, I think there's some, I don't want to call it depth, but I think there's some pieces here that when you start to put them together could be very intriguing on a lineup sheet. De Aza, I think, is going to be a solid piece again. Jamari Baylor had a good year last year from a power perspective, so I think that could be something of note as well. Taylor Darden, really, really good year in the Pioneer League. Very, very good year. I think he hit about 400 and had a good chunk of power as well. I understand it's the Pioneer League. I understand you're playing, the environment you're playing in, but you hit 400 in any professional league.
He's a guy that I think to keep an eye on from the Pioneer League. I always go back to, don't necessarily look at things like slugging and OPS from the Pioneer League. Look at things like average, because it indicates how often bats gain the ball, which is a skill, if you can step up with the talent level, that will stay with you, regardless of the run environment you're playing in. And it's like, because like I say with the Pioneer League too, like look at guys who hit the zone and get some strikeouts, because that doesn't, they might have a 70 ERA, but just because balls are flying. So yeah, I agree with you there 100%. I was going to actually call him out.
Yeah, he's one I really like there. Danny Batista Jr. is the guy that I pointed out over the offseason that I like from Lincoln. He makes the jump with Brett Jody, who is now the manager in Southern Maryland. So I think he could be a guy that may be able to make that transition. Was one of the few bright spots in Lincoln last year, was probably their best overall hitter. And then a guy like Ethan Wilson's also an intriguing piece to me. I'm curious to see how he sorts himself out in the lineup here. But yeah, it's very odd for me to see Southern Maryland team where I go, yeah, I'm high on the batting more than the pitching.
Yeah, I see that. I'm trying not to hesitate too long on this one, but I think it'll be interesting to see. This is going to be a project for sure. This is not going to be the final. I would say there's a good chance we're looking at half these guys still around on this roster by the end of the season. I just think, they, in what Stan left behind in Southern Maryland, I think there's just a lot of work to do. And if I'm honest, Brett Jody wasn't able to dip into a very, deep bag of tricks from Lincoln. It's not like he had a bunch of guys there who were absolutely tearing it up. So you kind of have to reinvent a little bit. And, the Atlantic League is the league to do that in. Of course, the talent level's high, but the restrictions are low. So, hey, I think building around Ethan Wilson is a good example of an interesting choice. He showed flashes of what he can do like last year, but they're putting him kind of right at the heart of the lineup. And as somebody who saw a lot of him in Reading, I was surprised to see that. I wouldn't be surprised to see him based on, we'll see what he shows. If he seems to be getting good, consistent contact and making things happen out there, like he could be a guy that they do build around, or he could be a guy they make like a 7 or 8 hitter. There are some other ones that sort of jumped out to me. Jamari Baylor is always interesting to keep an eye on. Danny Batista Jr. I want to see what they do with. Brody Farr, I think is someone at least I've been rooting for a while. Alejandro De Aza every time just finds the roster fun. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of this roster is going to be geared toward a second half push. In the first half, I think it's going to be a lot of assessing where they're at, learning a lot about how, not exactly from when they're playing Staten Island, but more when they're playing the North Carolina teams, how they do and just how far they have to go if they want to compete for the South Division.
Definitely. And I think that's a good point that you raised a second ago, where the rosters are going to turn over a lot between now and September. This is more or less a first half preview, if anything. I'd even argue it's more like a first maybe 60-day preview, if that even. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is just your initial what we're walking the season with, guys to keep an eye on. But it is still important to do, and it's fun to actually be able to talk about baseball as opposed to just like, hey, guess which league just dropped their drawers and started drawing on the walls today.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Although I guess we did a little bit of that to start this one off too. So, you really can't escape it.
Also, Andres Bacino is back, and that always makes me happy.
Oh, yeah. Lexington, they are up next. So, Lexington, I got to be real with you. I don't see all too much here. Dylan Rock's a nice piece here. Ryan McCarthy could be surprising. It's really a barren roster, though. Peyton Glavin, who is, yes, Tom Glavin's kid, is a very kind of fun piece, although he's listed on the roster. I have not watched Lexington play yet. They had a day game today, which they lost 9-0, and they played last night. But yeah, so I mean, 1-1 to start the year there. So I mean, take what you will, but I don't know if Glavin pitched in either one of them. I seen somewhere that it looks like he got signed to an actual team, but he's listed on the opening day roster, so I'm going to assume he's there. Like I said, I watched maybe 5 minutes of them last night, so hard to really say much there. But yeah, I look at the roster, I just don't really see an awful lot here, and it's not even like a case where last year, you could say, all right, there's a lot of guys that are really good in the Pioneer League. Let's see how they transition in. Mm-hmm. This year, I mean, like, there's a couple like that. Gabe Howell's one that stands out. St. Washington again. There's a few others as you go throughout. But, like, we saw how that went last year off the bat. And then, just to a further point, I don't see that same kind of, like, jump off the page Pioneer talent even. I just don't see a lot here, period. So I am kind of concerned on that perspective. Although I do like having Short King EJ Kumpo on this team here. 5'5", 180. That is a haystack of a man.
Yeah. Okay. So we last week discussed Lexington. We actually were very complimentary, and we kind of had the feel of, we see what you're going for here. And I kind of endorsed the idea of, hey, let's get some Pioneer League guys in here. That's where Paul Fletcher was coming from. Let's get some guys we're familiar with who think they might have something, and give them some time and just see who kind of has potential to work something out, or maybe just goes and does well right away. Let's see who's struggling. Maybe we can move them and try new guys. Okay, cool. And they kind of found a rhythm off and on throughout the year last year. And we were like, yo, like Lexington could be moving here. I mean, Gastonia or Gastonia or High Point, they tend to always have a bunch of guys signed. And then, if you can get them vulnerable and you make a good push ready to go, you might be able to sneak into a playoff spot here. I mean, this is a roster that I've already been keeping an eye on for the reason we're talking about, which is I don't know what the hell what happened. Yeah. And I almost wonder, did they see what they had last year? Because remember, they had a really good early start to the year before everybody had been seen by other teams. So like seen twice rather. So like their pitching got off to a really good start. And then second time that they're being seen by teams, they're getting tagged. Is that something they're going for? I mean, I have no choice but to wonder. There's just a lack of experience. There's a lack of high level, play here. I just don't know. I don't know. The guys they brought back weren't really the ones I would have been excited to bring back. I understand a lot of pitchers don't want to go to Lexington because it is a small ballpark for the Atlantic League, but usually you can bring in hitting, and I just don't see that either. This is a very confusing roster, I'll be honest. Yeah. Because even guys like Zane Washington, who had a lot of potential in the Pioneer League but struggled last year, I want to see them do well. But I mean, they're really kind of betting on him and like Kingston Liniak, and maybe, but there's going to need to be a lot of things that go well to make that work.
Yeah, I just don't see all that going. I think that's really the best way of putting it. Is a lot got to go well, and I look at the rest of the South Division here, and I'll openly admit I'm not overly impressed by any one team in the South as I start to go through it. I think each of them you could see like, oh yeah, this is how it goes wrong for them. And we have a couple of South teams coming up next in Charleston and Gastonia, but there's no overwhelming force in that division. But with Lexington, it's very clear, like, oh, no, this is the team I have the hardest time seeing how it goes right for them. Because going right for them is really playing at this amazingly above potential realm and having a lot of slow starts in front of you. And right now, I mean, they're kind of saving grace is that, like, going into the weekend, almost certainly it will be Southern Maryland leading the division. You're going to have Charleston probably splitting with them, be 2-1 at worst. So you'll be at 1-2 at worst. And Gastonia and High Point are playing each other as well. So, you know, everybody's going to be roughly even. It's early in the year. Everyone's even anyway. But like one or two of those teams are probably going to level off here shortly. But I still just don't even see it. Like, the whole hot start thing is really what you're going to have to do if you're going to be going with a lot of Pioneer League guys or a lot of new to the league guys, because, and we'll discuss this as we go throughout this preview because it's going to come up again. The more they see you, the more they know you, the more they know you, the more they hit you, the more they know how to pitch to you. So if you're not going to be going after this upper level of player, if you're not going to be getting these veteran kind of players, and Charleston's going to be a pretty good example of that in 1 second, it's going to catch you very quickly. So you got to get that first kind of sneak punch in and sucker punch a team so that we can start to build out a lead pretty early on to survive it, get your first half playoff bid, and then you figure out the second half in the second half. But I just don't see it with them.
Right. I mean, there's a possibility there's something we're missing here, and this is the continuation of a long-term play. Because I'm looking at, for example, Zane Washington, who is very, very good in the Pioneer League, and then he was okay in the Atlantic last year, sharing a position with Kingston Liniak, who has really struggled in the Atlantic League in the stint, and was good to very good depending on the year in the Pioneer League. And like, you know, maybe letting Zane continue to develop, getting most of the playing time, letting Kingston do it. But like, I mean, I guess again, if Paul Fletcher feels like he has multiple years to build this team, I mean, sure, technically, like, yeah, I guess this could be it. I'm not optimistic about this season. There are angles where I see this maybe as a continuation of the development, but it's not what I would have expected the second step of this to look like. I mean, if it's just a very sure-footed second step, maybe, okay, I can get there with you, but we'll see.
Yeah, I would have hoped to see more out of it than this.
Agreed.
Before we get to Charleston, just really quickly, I do want to point out, I appreciate Southern Maryland's broadcaster, Ian Benke. I believe this is how his last name's pronounced. If I got it wrong, I apologize for that. But I appreciate him because he has now posted a picture of his scorebook.
Yeah.
So that way we have a stat line. He highlighted some of the more impressive things here. Tyler Darden, grand slam tonight, 2 walks. DeAza, 3 for 4. Baylor, 2 for 4. We have Pena, 2 for 5. Overton goes 5 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 6 Ks for him. And then tagged me with that. I appreciate that a ton. It makes it a whole hell of a lot easier to follow along when this happens. So kind of sad we got to do it, but that's where we're at for now. So I appreciate the press people stepping up.
Yeah. Again, I hate that we have to do it, but sure. Okay.
Yep. So Charleston's up next, though.
Yes.
For the preview. Again, like, here's the thing. With Charleston, and I point this out in the post I made in the article that should be hopefully finally up on Thursday. But no matter what I pick for Charleston, they'll do the opposite. If I say they're a bad team, they'll go out and have a tremendous season. If I say they're a good team, they'll have a horrible season. That just seems to be the rule of thumb. They are my Winnipeg for this league, where Winnipeg does the same thing. That said, there's names in the roster I like. There's just not that many names that I like, if that makes sense here. I really like John Nunez behind the plate.
Yes.
Cornelius Randolph and Narciso Crook.
What a get. Yep.
Love them both. Love that trio so much. Pitching wise, Miguel Pena is a dude I really like, especially as a lefty arm. Really, really dig that. Simpson coming back is a nice addition here. Lance Lusk is a PJ stalwart, and he is always going to be a reliable arm. Risquiel Tino is a guy I'm curious about, because if I have his age right, he's not that old. He's like 22, 23 years old. So even if his numbers weren't that great coming into this, a younger arm like that, I'm curious to see what he could do. I don't have high expectations there, but I think it's worth highlighting when you have a younger guy in the league to point him out.
Yeah, and there's a couple things I look for on this, because I'm actually pretty high on Charleston this year. One, PJ tends to add, frankly, because of the way things work over there. I would expect him maybe to get another visa guy or two as things go. Ariel Sandoval is a really interesting addition. He had an OPS over 900 over 2 years with Lancaster, and then ended up like a weird year last year. I don't know. Something just didn't seem right last year. I'm not sure if he wasn't happy with where he was at, whatever. He had a year in Mexico in 2024. Maybe something didn't, who knows, but interesting that he's now settling in Charleston. I think he could definitely vibe. He seems like a PJ guy, frankly. Schwan Dunston, Cornelius Randolph, as you mentioned, Joseph Rosa, even there's a lot of guys who can do a lot of damage. I mean, just looking at, highest level of play for this team versus like Lexington, where everybody was kind of like single A, double A, I felt like. I mean, it's triple A. It's a bunch of guys who have Atlantic League experience, more triple A, and like one Frontier League guy. That's just on offense, right? So that's interesting. The pitching, I think there's a lot more question marks, but that would have been enough for me to sound a massive alarm with any PJ team back in the day. But ever since New Jersey, where he kind of just had that weird sink or swim of, you're here in this weird stadium now, good luck. And he managed to build a pitching staff in that ballpark as things went on, which was historically a thing he was not very good at, was putting together a pitching staff, let alone mid-season. He's proceeded to build 2 pitching staffs mid-season based on guys getting signed or whatever, while in Charleston the last 2 years. So I think that could improve as well here. So I'm hesitant to say they're going to challenge for like a division title here, but I think any back step from High Point or Gastonia, I think Charleston could eat them alive. Like, it's just going to be a really painful team to deal with. I think like a very normal Charleston team, like a very, I guess, PJ team of it. You better hope you're not having a weird week where you're out of pitchers like for the weekend, because Charleston will drop, 30 runs on you in 3 days. And you're like, well, that was the worst 3 days of my life. I would say Charleston's definitely a team to watch here, man. They could definitely find their way into the playoffs.
It's funny. Your description of that is a lot like the last line of their section in the big article that should be up soon.
Nice.
Which the last couple sentences go, because I've spent a lot of that piece saying I'm high on them. I like pieces here, but I go, ultimately, I don't know if they have the gas to stick around the full year, but I do think they can be a major pain and surprise a lot of people. Perhaps things fall the right way for them to make the playoffs too. I think this team is just a real pain in the ass kind of team to have to play. Which 100%. Which is a very dangerous team, because they just stick around long enough. They win the games they're supposed to, win a couple of the ones they're not supposed to, and then just kind of hang around for a while. It just takes a misstep, like you said, to kind of get in there. I don't feel good about calling them a favorite or projecting them to be in that spot. I just don't think they have enough. But I do think they put themselves in a position to to succeed if things go right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they have, by the way, some pieces that I do find interesting. I don't want to write off their whole pitching staff. I like Jose Cruz. I think he's interesting. He's a guy who I would, if he has his control, he looks really good. He had some okay numbers with Sioux Falls, and obviously that's a different situation entirely. I also really like bringing back Christopher Ogondo. He was one who pitched in Charleston really well in 2024. And keep in mind the situation in Charleston is that's a pitcher's park or a hitter's park, like depending on the wind. So there's going to be just a lot of games where just it's really going to matter if a guy can keep the ball in the yard, or it's really going to matter if the other team's guy can't. And if you have a lineup built to smash, then you're going to be doing well. So it's going to be, there's a lot of interesting dynamics here, and there's a lot of things where there are a number of guys where this could go really well, or average to below average, and that's going to be make or break for the team.
Absolutely. Going to Gastonia now.
Yeah.
I like their pitching a bit more than I like their hitting. Hitting wise, I will say I think Chris Proctor is my favorite of the actual catchers on this roster, although I know he was a catcher outfielder, but I do like him a lot as a catcher there. Reinheimer back again, Scantlin back again. Those guys, everyone knows what everyone knows what those guys are capable of doing.
Right.
And they should, succeed pretty well. Hey, I just realized something. Hunter Haskin, born exactly a year after me. Very curious.
Cute.
Hey, basically the same. That, and also among the pitchers that I'm going to go through here, they have a bunch of former major league guys. They got 3 there, and I'm seeing about 4 or 5 other guys that look like they had AA or higher here with a lot of AAA in there. But I do want to point out, because McKinley Moore's a guy I'm really high on. I didn't realize how big this guy is. This guy's huge. 6'6", 225. My God.
Yeah, you're going to want to make sure that mound's reinforced, boys.
Oh, yeah, he's going to be snapping those plastic mounds. Dear God. He's a big boy. Corey Thompson, I like. Jake Rice is a nice lefty. I still believe in Ryan Hennon, but I'd like to see him be put as a starter again. That's where he had success in Washington. Let's make him a starter again. I understand there's certain parts of it where you're like, I'd be better as a reliever. No, let's just go back to having him as a starter, please. Can we try that for a little bit? Great. Thanks. Connor Gray's another dude I like. Spencer Adams, another dude I like. There's a lot of dudes here that I am kind of high on. LJ Newsome, I'm curious to see how his season looks. He has all the potential to do it. Overall, it's a tougher place for pitchers to succeed. I know you can make batting work there, which is why I'm less concerned about not seeing that many these are a bunch of names jumping off the page batting-wise here. But, yeah, I'm curious to see if the pitching-heavy focus lays out the way that Brady and company want it to, because I could see it backfiring, and I can also see it working out exactly as it has planned. So I'm not really sure how much of a preview that really is, but I am very interested in the roster construction this year.
I also got a legit 2-way guy in there, like listed on the roster as 2-way. So a couple things. First is, I mean, looking at the pitcher heavy construction, it almost feels like a response to the traumas they've had losing pitchers to signings.
Had that line in my preview post.
Yeah, it feels like a bit of a reaction to that, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. I am also feeling like also a good number of lefties through there. 4. Anyway, 5. But
the 5 of 16 is not as small amount, though.
Yeah, you're right. The offense, and this is where I now am exposed by not necessarily having the time I would typically take to typically I'm fully doing projections. This one I haven't even gotten a chance to even look at rosters fully, but I'm interested to see what we've learned from Gastonia is they're flexible offensively. They can work with what they need to work with, and part of that is the ballpark. So if you don't know, the ballpark is constructed in a way where it is like flat across center field, but then it breaks off and it doesn't do the normal like bended sort of arch that you see toward the foul pole at most stadiums. It is like a straight line, as if it's going toward it's almost like a box. It's hard to explain, but because of that, it's really deep in the alleys.
So
and
it's a deep
really
box.
shallow in the corners. So what you can do is you can have, and we've seen them have teams that are just hitting bombs constantly. Additionally, we've seen them have teams with speedsters. You're knocking the ball around. They're hitting the gaps. They're stealing bags. They're causing chaos. So it will be interesting to see. And part of it is, they can kind of choose the identity that they need. And I don't know that there's they feel a lot of pressure to fit a specific model for their offense as much as they feel the pressure to create a deep pitching staff. So I wonder if we're seeing that here. Could just be projecting my own thoughts on how I'd go about it. But anyway, I do want to point out, though, because it's huge for me, it's a Nate Pedden truther, a guy who has put his neck out on the Nate Pedden thing for a while, was mad when Nate Pedden got grabbed by the Genomes while I was in Lexington. It was like actually actively not happy about it. To see him for the first time in his career drop an ERA below 5, going all the way back to 2017 in the Gulf Coast League, ERA sub 5, and it's a 146 ERA last year, was awesome. Dude, Nate Pedden, when he's good, he is great. So I'm really excited to see him back in Gastonia. That was in 2024. Sorry, that the 2025 season. That was it, because I was talking to him last year about I was so gassed up to see it. But excited to see him back. Hopefully, he's good to go. Give it a full year and give it because he only went 24 innings last with Gastonia in 2024. So I'd love to see if we can get more out of him. Love watching Nate Pedden. He's good, man. He's a big dude. He's 6'4". He feels taller when you're talking to him. He's a super lanky guy. It's just fun, man. When he is good, he is so good. I just, something to watch.
Big man crush energy coming from you about Nate.
Man, I was so happy for it, because he looked due for one of those years, so many years, and it would just fall apart. It was brutal. But occasionally he'd have a week where he'd throw 3 appearances out of the pen, cover 5 innings, scoreless, striking out 8. And you're like, all right.
He teases you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Those big, tall guys, they always like to tease you a little bit.
Yeah, get me going.
Let's get going to Hagerstown next here. On the surface, I don't love the roster. There's not that many guys that are overly intriguing to me. I will say, pitching-wise, Cole Rollins, a dude I am fascinated to see what he does in the Atlantic League after just mowing through the Frontier League last year. Bonus points for Quebec allegedly trading him to Staten Island and him now being on the Hagerstown roster. Said trade being announced on opening day, and me desperately looking over the rosters I have to make sure that it is, in fact, the same Cole Rollins, spelled the same way, being traded from the same team to the same league, and making sure there is not a mistake there on my end. And by all accounts, it would appear as though, yes, it is the Quebec Cole Roland that is in Hagerstown, not Staten Island. I don't know what happened there. And frankly, I don't care to find out. Any case, he's here. He's on this team. He closed out a game last night, and he looked damn good doing it. So I'm curious to see that. I'm curious to see what kind of Alex Mack we get. He has some potential. We've seen it before, and we need to see it all come together. Connor Curlis is a dude I'm very, very high on. I like him a lot. We'll try not to talk about the guys that have played so far and what they've done. That's more a discussion for, I guess, tomorrow's pod. But yeah, he's a guy I really like. There's a couple others in the pitching side of things that are intriguing. Eisenbarger being the main one for
that's
me.
what I was about to say, baby. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I am so high on him. I know what he did in Lake Erie. There's a lot of guys here on this team really that you go, what they did in the Frontier League, lights out, great stuff. Can it translate here? And that's really the big question for me on this roster. And
having been in Lake Erie for 2 days, I'm saying there must have been some days where that wind was blowing out. And that place is crazy. I could not believe how windy it was. So the fact that back to what he threw, he allowed 8 home runs in 220 something innings in Lake Erie. That's unbelievable.
Got to bribe the wind is what you need to do.
It's craziness.
But yeah, batting wise, Robert Brooks, a dude I'm really high on. Really high on. I like what he did in Staten Island not that long ago. So he's a dude I'm curious to see here. Jeff Wheeler's also had some success too. Christian Rodriguez has a lot of noise around him too. Mm-hmm. I want to see how that translates. Ozzie Abreu's been big for them in the past too. And all three outfielders, all are curious to watch, but I'm not putting a lot of stock in any one of them. I'm just interested to see how they do. So a lot of question marks with this team. If they all start to come together, then I think they really could produce something here. They are in a little bit of a tougher spot just because of who's in their division. I don't think they're the worst team in their division by any stretch. We'll be getting to them in a second. But for now, a lot of question marks. If they pan out, then I think this could be a really fun team. So I do wonder if the element of guys that haven't really been around this league before, so people don't quite know them, on top of that Minikazi first half push, kind of combines for some surprises. You need a hot start, which admittedly they're getting off to a good start of that. But we'll go from there. So curious on this team, all been told.
First thing I'll say is shout out to Hagerstown for including a pronunciation key on theirs. Yeah. I like the fact that it's not a full pronunciation key. It's only for a few guys. One of them being Christian Rodriguez. And so the spelling is Christian. And the pronunciation isn't like the phonetic pronunciation thing. It's just Christian Rodriguez. It's like just say it the way you would think it should be said if we wrote it this way. Like, I don't know why that made me laugh. A couple things that jumped out that you didn't hit on. Tommy Kane is super interesting, not only because he is a local kid from Broomall, though he went to O'Hara, which sucks, but he is interesting because he, like, everywhere he goes, he like strikes out 10, 11, 12 an inning or a game. And I just think that's fascinating. His numbers haven't been mind-blowing. He hasn't really played to the competitive level that I would look for the Atlantic League. If I'm honest, I wouldn't. If I were bringing him in, I would look for him. He's a lefty reliever to have maybe some key outings, and right around the time maybe people start to figure him out a little bit, if that time should come, deal him out to like the Frontier League, and then maybe try to get a deal where you can get him back for a playoff push. That would be my suggestion, but who am I? Meanwhile, a couple others. You mentioned Eisenberger. Alex Isola. So Alex Isola he's the catcher. He was in Lancaster last year. He was a starting catcher. And I don't know. So he had 243, 353, 412, played 107 games for them. I mean, that's what you're looking for. 83 of them were behind the plate. So he was fine. Guys seemed to like throwing to him, and he only came up in a couple conversations I've had with Lancaster guys, but they seemed like throwing to him. There is one thing that someone said really well. I'm trying to even think who it was. I think it was a couple of I think it was a conversation, not to name drop. I think I was talking like TJ Stanton and a couple of people from, during the Frontier League tryout, because we're talking about what do you look for. And they kind of were saying that when it comes to pitchers, a guy that, even if it's a D3 guy, someone that their coach went to like time and time again, even late in the year. And with a guy like Alex Isola, he's going on his age 27 season, his numbers aren't mind blowing, but having been in the lineup 107 times last year, 83 behind the plate, there is something to be said for basically the mentality of maybe you're not sold on this guy entirely. But last year, Ross Peoples, who is a manager whose livelihood depends on the team he puts on the field, trusted his livelihood to Alex Isola, both in the lineup and handling the pitchers 107 times. And that makes me think there's something to him. And I think he's going to be one to watch because he could. I do think there was an improvement to his performance last year. He's shown some flashes before in the minors, and I'm interested to see his second year in Indy ball if we could see some real development there. So that's one I'm actually like actively excited to see. He landed back on a roster after he's not come back to Lancaster. I'm excited that he's in Hagerstown. So he's one to watch. You kind of mentioned the rest of the guys I have for Hagerstown, so I just want to hyper focus on two of them because I think they're interesting.
Okay.
And just sort of flag it for people who are, if you're watching a Hagerstown game, there's a couple maybe not headliners, but a couple guys to watch.
Moving on from Hagerstown to the other team in the north that is not really known for victories, and that is Staten Island.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
What is there to say?
Yeah, this is a rough one here. I don't see too much here. I mean, they have a new manager in Carlos Maribal. Mm-hmm. He got a late start on this. He wasn't announced until February. Even you want to say they waited a little bit to announce him. It's still a late jump on this. I don't really love much on this roster here. Brandon McCabe is an interesting pitcher for me. I think he has some potential here to really kind of jump out, do something here. He was with Southern Maryland last year. Maybe he has something here. Nick Padilla is another one that could be interesting as well. I assume it's his kid, Isaiah Maribal, that is listed as a catcher here too. Not the worst catcher, and he was with High Point for a minute last year too. So not going to go full Nepo on that one, but arguably you could actually say he's had the highest level of play amongst all the catchers. So interesting there. There's a couple batters too, but not loving anything here really.
Yeah, and even they have a lot of guys who were sort of cast-offs from other teams, which I don't. That doesn't make me write a guy off, but the signs are concerning. I'm going to pick on one guy for a second who's a good example, like Stephen Woods, right? Stephen Woods ended up in Long Island 2023. He had a 3.77 ERA. He looked really good. He did walk some guys. He gave up some hits, but he was striking out plenty of batters and he handled business, so got it done, right? Comes back in 2024. This is the last time he pitched, and he had 16 starts, but the ERA was up in the mid fives. He was getting hit a lot harder. He was still walking guys. Strikeouts were about the same. And what felt like was happening was guys kind of understood with him. He's going to throw some balls. We're going to try to back off the chase. We're going to make him bring it into the zone, and they were just making cleaner contact. And it was just guys learned them. And that is a bad sign for, year 3 coming back to the Atlantic League. And that kind of is the tone of a lot of the guys, unfortunately, that Staten Island has. I don't know what to make of this. I'm going to have some, I'll tell you now, before we transition to the next team, I'm going to have some off the record Staten Island insight for you. But the on the record Staten Island insight I can give you is they're not spending, buddy. Mr. Politician over there, he can say that they're reinvesting whatever, brother. They ain't spending, and it seems pretty clear that they're trying to wrap this up, I think, and unfortunately we're seeing it with the roster. I think they're working on a tight budget. I know for a fact that they were pretty early into late summer, so call it once you hit August-ish, they were already telling Minakazi, you got to be bringing in local guys only. So that's, I think, what we're looking at here. Unfortunately, it's depressing, but that's,
you can tell just from this roster. It looks a lot more like a Frontier League roster.
A lot of locals. Yeah,
that there is a lot of New York, New Jersey.
Yeah, man. It's so bad, but a lot of times it is a red flag. It's nice to have an area where you can dip in if you need, the way that the Canadian teams use their local markets. But
there's a difference between having a couple local guys, which are always great. We'll have them out in the community doing all sorts of stuff. That'd be great. Versus having what we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys on a 23-man roster are from New York, New Jersey. Which, in total fairness, some of the places in New York, New Jersey for the reside section, which is why I went off of there, they're not really within commuting distance. You're not going realistically from Port Jarvis to Staten Island every day. You're not going from Monroe to Staten Island every day. That's not going to happen here. That being said, still there. And there's a lot of guys that are from, say, like Queens or Dick Hills or other places nearby that also could qualify as local too.
Yeah.
There's numbers out there.
Shout out to Taylor Aguilar, by the way, Greeley, Colorado, home of NOCO, formerly. I'm well aware of that area now.
Also, bonus points, we have a former Pecos leaguer on the staff, Sean McNeil, pitching coach.
Let's go, baby. I love that. That's fun.
So we got all of that there. Yeah, overall, like, and I will say there are former major league talent here. Palios and Rutherford being two of the notable ones there. You also have Drew Maggie, and you have, I mentioned Padilla too. Those are some former major league guys, but I don't necessarily think they have enough to make up for the shortcomings elsewhere in this lineup.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a long year in Staten Island.
Oh, absolutely can be. So let's move from one of the less successful organizations in the North Division to some of the more successful ones. We got Lancaster up next. Team-wise, I don't necessarily love what I see here.
It's first half Stormers. Doesn't even matter. We shouldn't even talk about them.
Fair enough. Let's see if we can get this done in a minute for them.
One of my favorite quotes from the weekend, though, was, I mean, we can't all do what Ross does and just phone it in for the first half or for 90 days or whatever. I think it's for 60 days was what the guy said. I was like, yeah, that's hilarious. They're like, I mean, no hate. I mean, I don't think I could put together as good of a team for 60 days as he does at the end of the year. I was like, this is a wild conversation, brother.
I love how this is just like in industry, everyone's like, oh, yeah, no, this is what he does.
Yeah. It's just like, no. Kim, I just have one guy I want to talk about on this team.
Okay.
But I will let you get out what you got to get out here.
Okay. A couple guys I'm interested in. Joseph Carpenter coming back, like him, local kid, good job there. Nick Lucky, I'm interested in. Mark Flores is curious here too. I love to see the fact that Scott Kelly is just perpetually in this league now. He is not allowed to retire. So he is here permanently.
You're going to die out there, Scott. Sorry, buddy.
That when he's done playing, he will do the Lou Ford move and just manage for forever and a day. Pitching wise, Bremer, I want to be more interested in than I actually am. Luke Albright's curious. Phil Deal is curious. Billy Sullivan curious. I'm just curious on a lot of these guys. Amish curious. Someone marked me down as also noticing a couple of former Sussex County Miners here. Matt Still is the same Matt Still I'm thinking of, and Ronnie Vocalo. Also very interesting to see. We got some more guys from the general indie ball scene showing up here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I got two guys to point out because I thought you were going to get to the one. I'll point to the finest that I can think of Lancaster, Pennsylvania product at catcher in professional baseball. I can't think of a single other one. Yeah, I can't think. Certainly not the way his season started out west. Obviously, Joseph was a carpenter, a man who worked with wood, and Joseph Carpenter is back, and I love that for him. Proud UD product. I think that's going to be fun. I like Joseph Carpenter a lot. He is so consistent. Like, he technically had a down year last year. I don't know. He had a 795 OPS, sure. But he's great. And I think it's interesting they only have one catcher roster, but I think it's because they have like multiple other dudes who just like do catch, if I remember right. So I just can't pull them out of the top of my head. But other than that, I would say the guy I want to talk about is AJ Alexi, and this is only because he is one of my favorite weird stat guys.
Okay.
I mean, because we're going back to it, he was doing fine. He had a 1.6 ERA in Double-A Frisco in 2021. Makes it to the majors, does fine. Back to Round Rock, almost a 6 ERA. a nearly 12 ERA in Texas in 2022.
I know where this is going.
A 12 ERA in AAA in 2023, a 12 ERA that year with the Atlantic League Southern Maryland, and then ERA near 7 because he got back into affiliate, shout out, in 2024. Kansas City, he had a 6.26 ERA, and then all of a sudden showed up through 14 innings, looked amazing for Lancaster, and then came back last year to Lancaster, 40 innings, despite having a 12.38 ERA. I don't know what to do with that. I just think it's interesting. I mean, he could literally rip a 3 ERA this year. We'd all be like, sure, why not? He could be an affiliate by the end of the season. It's really weird.
His measurables got to be crazy.
Right? It has to be, and this is an ignorance thing. This is me not. I've seen him pitch like 3 or 4 times. I should just have it off the top of my head, but I don't know what his velo is. I assume it's high because he has had stretches where he's walking more than 2 guys in an inning for short stretches, but it was happening. In Charlotte, over 21 innings, he had 17.6 walks per 9. He also had like a lot of strikeouts per 9. I gotta figure there's just a couple pitches that are nasty. You just can't locate them for long stretches of time. Which, I mean, makes me think, by the way, and this is just off the top of my head, that could not be 100% accurate. It could also be. There are these guys around indie ball. They should be working with everything they have to find a spot that's like got a great pitching coach and just see. And, you know, I think of, you know, like one of those, like finding Daryl Thompson in Southern Maryland back in the day for a guy like him could have been life-changing. So we'll see. I mean, oh, by the way, all that say he was in Southern Maryland while Daryl Thompson was there. I don't know, but he ended up back in affiliated ball the next year. So, hey, maybe that's exactly what happened.
I'm still hung up on the fact you threw 40 innings with a 12 ERA. Like, at what point do you just stop?
I know. I gotta. Oh shoot! I don't want to go down that rabbit hole necessarily, but I'm gonna just do it real quick. I've been good about not going down rabbit holes real quick, so I'm gonna just check it right now. Okay, largely last year, it seems to have been an issue of. He just had a couple blow up outings, like type ones where it's like no outs, 3 earned runs, like 5 batters faced. What up?
To get a 12 ERA?
Yeah, I don't know if that happens a few times. It kind of just gets on you quick. The interesting point being, I've been trying to give people someone to watch. AJ Alexi's one to watch, for better or worse. Let's see how this thing goes. I'm rooting for him. Elverson kid, he's local to me.
We waddle on to the next team. We go to Long Island next. So,
quack.
Bunch of quacker jacks, aren't they?
Yeah, maybe the guy you think is blackballed just isn't always quacked up to be.
You know, in another timeline, that winds up being a episode title.
Thank you.
It fits all the descriptions here. As far as the team itself here, we'll save the pitching part for the back half of this. Mm-hmm. I like the lineup a lot, to be quite honest with you. Aaron Tax is really nice. Jorge Bonifacio is really nice. Aaron Kusiak, tremendous here in Chicago. The fact Long Island has him now makes me wonder what that environment was like, that he was so happy to leave.
Yeah, it's a great place to work.
Yeah, according to Sports Business Journal, it is. In any event, who to get him? Wilmer Defoe, who apparently lives like 40 minutes from my house. Did not know that, but now I do. Is here, former major leaguer, and most well known with the Nats, obviously. Marcus Chu also, and Austin Dennis. I just want to point out, to round everything out, beautiful setup there. And Gavin Collins, for my money, is a top 2 catcher in the league. So
I agree entirely that this lineup looks really good, which makes it kind of funnier that Hagerstown has just had them in hell for 2 nights to start the season. We're looking at 2 runs. By the way, Alexander Womack. I'm not sure if you mentioned him.
I did not. But
he was my really favorite player in Charleston last season. He's so good. And again, talk about a guy that, a professional manager has trusted. PJ went to him 121 times last year. He played at 539 plate appearances, by the way. He got on base, 147 hits, added 30 walks, which is kind of comically low. But yeah, man, he's one. He could be, if he can find a way to maybe take some more pitches, be a little more selective, I'd be very interested in what he's doing.
He has some good highlights early on. He made a couple of really nice defensive plays. I really like that lineup is really, really nice here.
Yes.
The pitching staff, honestly, is fairly well done up too. I like the bullpen a little bit more than the starters. Noah Clenny, Angel Reyes, really nice. Raymond Santos comes back after a phenomenal year last year. Ryan Sandberg's here too, also as a starter. Kristen Scott, I really like him. He looked good with Cleveland last year as well.
He looked really good with them 2 straight years, and Schaumburg the 2 years before that. He's been on a 4-season heater.
I mean, a 7, 8, 9 in some order of Reyes, Santos, Scott is a killer core there, especially as we get into the year and the pitchers start getting stretched out a bit. If you can get if you really can get 5 or 6 good innings out of your starters, I mean, that's a say goodnight situation right there, especially when you get the postseason. Obviously, there's one pitcher in particular we haven't mentioned yet, but I don't really know why I'd mention a number 4 starter.
We already talked about him plenty. I mean,
exactly.
I would say second time through the order looked like a problem, and I would expect it to continue to be.
Oh, yeah, there were some hard hit balls there. I mean,
yes, there were.
I will stand on what we've said here because I feel like I'll at least say something briefly. Bauer's going to get his case. He's going to have his good outings. He is still a guy that won a Cy Young at one point here. There is some talent here still, even if it is kind of clear like, oh, he is not the same pitcher he was when he got suspended. So he's going to be able to beat up on the lower level guys that are more like that high A, double A talent guy because he, frankly, is better than a double A pitcher. That being said, he's not going to be beating up on everybody, and we've seen that. And he doesn't have that overwhelming heat, that overwhelming stuff where he can just rely on that to get through it. When your hitter is sitting in the low 90s, at one point in time, that would have been devastating. Hell, even like 6 or 7 years ago, especially in indie ball, if you were throwing in the 90s, it was like, okay, he's somebody to watch out for. You know, guys were throwing in it, but not consistently. And I remember watching a lot of radar guns up in the high 80s there. And the difference between 88 and 91 is huge. 3 miles
there were guys at the Frontier League tryout yesterday that were throwing 92 that didn't get picked up.
Yeah, it's just the way it is now.
And to be clear, there's a lot of much ado about velocity with him. The reason it's particularly important for Trevor Bauer, he has high spin, high movement breaking stuff, right? And it does not catch a lot of the zone. It often misses the zone, but he gets chases on it. When he gets chases on it, and we saw it a bit the second time around, guys were better at staying off of it, not chasing it, and sitting and being patient, because when his velo isn't high, I mean, anybody who followed his career knows he was putting a ton of work in to really amp up the velo, really get high spin stuff coming up, high in the zone, throwing off eye levels, making it really difficult you have to commit early. It's going to be the fastball, or it's going to be that breaking stuff. It's going to make you look bad. When that stuff, he can't work high in the zone the same way with what he's throwing now. And it's allowing guys, once they have seen the breaking stuff a little bit and can identify it, it's a lot easier than for them to spit on that and wait on the heat, or make him bring breaking balls into the zone, in which case you can get to it. That's why, because there was a lot of people, because we were talking about, it's only 92. They were like, there's plenty of guys throwing 92 in the show today. You're right, but this isn't. Trevor needed high velo to do well, and you could see his numbers kind of struggled until he hit that point where he really put the work in at drive line and was able to do that. And it just isn't the same when he's throwing 92. That is why we obsess over the velo with a guy like him. Bothered me because a lot of people were using the whole plenty of guys on the show throwing 92. I'm like, yeah, with like not working the way Trevor does. That's all.
And I will admit, early on, the curve was working really well. He was getting a lot of chases on it, and guys were looking dumb on it. That being said, when either they were catching it or they were saying, hey, wait a minute, I can work a count a little bit on him. I'll roll the dice on looking stupid as a curve drops right in on me, which did happen once or twice. But the guys that started waiting were hitting things really hard. And that infield saved him probably a run or two as well. So that line will look as though he only gave up 2 runs, but it wasn't great. And we already said our piece on Hagerstown here. When we start getting in and we're facing the North Carolina teams, frankly, York too, as we're going to get to them in 1 second here. Actually, they're next up. It's going to be a much different animal. So we will see how this season develops there. But overall, as a unit, though, with Whistling Island, I still do like them. I like them a lot in the North, and I think they are going to be fighting for a playoff spot. Whether it's the first half, the second half, or wild card, I think they're going to be getting in there. This roster feels like a return to what it should be. I'll be curious to see how many guys get purchased, what it looks like in the end. But as of right now, walking into the year, I'd be hard-pressed to do better.
Yeah, I think that's a fair summary of the situation, if I'm honest. Yeah, I don't have a ton to contribute there, but yeah. Beyond what I've already said. Sorry, I mean, I think you kind of nailed it there as a summary.
There is one team that's going to stay in their way, and that is the York Revolution. They've run back, now back-to-back champions. They come back with some very interesting names in this roster. And I can't tell if I like their lineup better on paper, but guys like Brian Ray, very intriguing. Jacob Teeter, very intriguing. Otasaka coming back again, like that. Josh Day, good in Sioux City for quite some time for stretches last year. I want to see how he adapts too. Nick Dunn, coming from affiliated ball, also a very interesting player to me. And then there's a slew of pitchers. I'll leave a lot of meat on that bone for you there, but Dawson Lane's a guy that has seemingly succeeded at every stop so far. Did really good with Billy and Yolo. Did good last year in Gary, one of the really better right side pitchers for them. He seems to be continually climbing the ladder up. I'm curious to see how he does in York. I'm really optimistic, though. I like him a lot, especially as a lefty. There's a couple other guys here, also lefties and righties too, but I will leave them to you to talk about. And if you miss one or two of them, then I'll swing back in.
I'm trying to think here. I got a little distracted by a weird email I got, but it's fine. I am locked in and focused. I was really impressed by the season that Nick Mikolajczyk. Hold on, I can do it.
Just pronunciation.
Mikolajczyk. There we go. Mikolajczyk is what I'm going with, and let me double check.
Yes.
Mikolajczyk. Damn, Mikolajczyk. I always want to go with the Mikkel. I don't know why. Mikolajczyk, though, he had a really good, I would call it a stint. It was only about 18 2/3 innings, but it was a sub-2 ERA. Struck out 27 over that time, so it was absolutely doing it. Guys just couldn't really find a way to solve him. I would be really interested. I think the only issue is if he goes, issue and is a loose term clearly, but I think if he brings that the first 3 weeks of the season again, I don't think he stays on this roster. I think he probably gets picked up. It was interesting to me to see, Chris Vallimont back again, which is really every time Chris Vallimont shows up. I've been at a couple Chris Vallimont starts that I can only say seem to change my understanding of indie ball pitching. It felt like watching sort of throwback Daryl Thompson. So when Vallimont's at his best, he's untouchable. When he's at his worst, he's fine. And I think that's kind of what you're looking for, and hopefully they'll get that out of him again this season.
Another dude Jack that's huge too.
They kind of collect tall dudes in York, from what I've noticed. They just put the tall, put some big boys in the bump and let them rip. Jack Nedro was another guy, by the way, who you figure Chicago would have wanted to keep, but here he is rather. But he looked really good. He went. I remember last year he was thrown over 5 innings to start, which hey, you'll take that. But that was off the back of just leaving college. He is really young. If he shows up and he's able to deliver like he did in Chicago last year, he's either going to get picked up or he's going to be on the path to be one of those guys who's a top 2 in rotations in indie ball for the next 5 to 7 years. He had some really good performances in Chicago. One game stat lines that make you go, oh shoot. Okay. Other than that, I was kind of looking offensively at some guys, but I'll kick it back to you before we go too far.
There's only two guys there that you didn't mention that I do want to point out. Jolie
Mhm.
Rodriguez, former major leaguer too.
Hmm.
Really like him. Kind of an older guy for indie ball here, especially to be kind of just popping up now. But I do like him, lefty. Think he could be very interesting here. And then more well known to indie ball people, Braden Scott too. Like him, did good work in York the year before. Believe he's also an Evansville Otter at one point too. So another guy I just want to point out here, solid guy there as well. Also, side note, it's small, but it kind of annoys me. I hate the way that York did the abbreviation for American Association on their fresh sheet here because it's AMAS. And I spent way too much time trying to figure out what the hell AMAS was until I simply just went across and saw Nedro, Chicago. Oh, wait.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That said, you're still there?
Yes, I am still there. Yeah.
Okay, the wait, then the hard pause killed me.
Yeah, I was waiting. I was waiting to see what you were doing.
I was just going to kick it onto the offense because I mentioned foolishly people who, you think Chicago would still want to have around without fully transitioning to a Jacob Teeter conversation, which is going to be really interesting. I might say the guy I'm most interested in, and again, there are those guys who are not canary in the coal mine, but sort of indicators to watch for what the Pioneer League is compared to every other league, is Mike Rosario. Mike Rosario put up unbelievable numbers from Missoula the last two seasons, and now he's going to get a shot in Lancaster or in York in some form or another, and it's going to be interesting. I mean, he 387, 382 were his 2-season batting averages. His OPS in 2024 was a 1.012. 1.014 in 2025. So one dotting it in both seasons is impressive. Obviously, it's the Pioneer League. It is Missoula, but it's something to watch. He improved with contact. He attacked the ball a little bit more in 2025, like noticeably so. I mean, he seemed far more aggressive at the plate. It seemed to be a much better fit for him. He didn't put up a ton of home runs, though. So it wasn't like he was relying on getting the ball out. He just really, he was getting consistent contact. And if he's able to do that at this level, even, obviously it's going to be his challenge, but if he can at least establish himself early as a 25-year-old in this league and stay aggressive, I think he could be really, really good. And as we get further down the line this season, we could see him really make a difference. Also, Tomo Osaka's back. Love Tomo. They love him there, by the way. They seem to like him, that fan base. Ben Blackwell's still around. Love that for Ben Blackwell. But, yeah, Eddie Arteaga, Austin Bates is a good catching tandem. I think they're interesting.
So, on that note, we only have one team left to get to. And we've only been at this for about 90 minutes. So, we're actually doing pretty good.
Yeah, the boys kind of killing it here, especially. And considering I'm kind of winging it based off of memory, I'm really happy with how this is going. Oh, the other one, Eddie Arteaga, that was the guy. Yeah, he's interesting. Keep an eye because he hasn't played ball since 2023. I think it's interesting and weird.
You're ready. Well, why don't we talk about High Point here to wrap up this preview and make my life easy when I go to edit this. So, a couple of guys of note, but generally a kind of underwhelming High Point roster, to be honest with you. David Hess, Ian Yetzko, I like. Nick Longy, DJ Burt, I like. Luke Napleton, I tried saying his name a little too quick. I like him behind the dish, too. It feels like a good crop of catchers this year. There's 3 or 4 that I really, really like, and he's one of them. Possible contender for name of the year, Finn Del Bonta Smith.
Yep, that stuck out to me as well. I was like, hell yeah.
Great
name.
Wayne
Scott is also there. We got some good ones. Yuhi Sako, great name too.
Yeah, but Bonta Smith, I like him as a pitcher in addition to the name. Great combination there. Kent Emanuel, also interesting. Matt Soltar back again. We all know Matt. And then Ben Werski as well. All interesting guys here. Whereas the past really three teams we talked about were all like, okay, well, they're all contenders for the North Division. They're going to be top of the line teams there. York is going to be battling with Long Island the whole year, and Lancaster's probably going to wind up stealing the second half spot because that's what they do. High Point in the South here, they're going to be battling with a lot of teams. I feel like they're on the same level with them. I want to believe that they're on the upper end of it just based off of history, but objectively speaking, I don't love the roster. I don't dislike it, but I just don't get excited by it, if that makes sense.
It's not as thrilling a roster as I think we've seen from them. I think there's, yeah. I'm trying to figure out why, and it's something I can't tell. Jimmy Keefe, I mean, he puts together consistently good rosters. I don't know. This isn't a bad one. It feels like one where they're intending to add some guys as they go, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I don't have any insider info on that one. It just feels like I don't know. I can't put my finger on exactly what it is. It's weird things like, okay, I don't want to call out guys, especially newbies, but like, yes, we might say Duncan Howard is an odd guy to still have hanging around unless they really like something that he's got, which I don't know. Maybe they do. But, you know, he pitched at Houston, University of Houston last year. Had like an ERA in the fives. He's fine. But I'm just sort of like, okay, that's not
overly impressive.
This is, I don't know. I'm trying not to make it sound passive aggressive because it's literally not. It's just for a team so tied in with indie ball jobs, it's a little surprising, right? You know what I mean? Like you have professional guys on deck. Cody Whitten hasn't pitched since 2023 when he pitched in Jersey. He was good, by the way. He helped pitch in Sussex for a while before that. It was good, but he didn't have an illustrious career before that, and now he's here again. Maybe they liked what they saw. He is a lefty, sure, but there are, I guess, more guys where I look at this and go, oh, I guess they must see something in him than usual. Usually with High Point, you're like, oh, lineup of killers. This one's a little more like, oh, this should be interesting. Like, let's see how this goes then.
Yeah.
Which isn't very good in-depth analysis. I get that, but it is kind of tough to put my finger on exactly what it is with this team.
That's pretty much how I feel about them, too, where it's just like, yeah, I feel underwhelmed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, there's certain things that we know. We know that Aiden Brewer, he's fine. I mean, they like him at shortstop. You have DJ Burke, Braxton Davidson, Nick Longy. Like those are the guys we know. Ethan Skender even. And then from there, it's just, I don't know. The infield seems really locked in. I like Luke Napleton a lot, clearly. The outfield just seems a little fuzzy, which is a weird thing to have for a third of your lineup for a team that knows how important it is to win early games in the South Division. So I think that's where I kind of wonder if something didn't come together or hasn't come together quite yet with this roster that they're intending to as this goes.
I mean, you would hope so, because I mean, as it currently is, it's just not really doing it for me. I
mean, I will point out, by the way, Matt Salter back. Like him a lot. Pitched for 5 teams since opening day last year. Went High Point from late April to late June. July, for a week in July, it was with Tijuana. For another 2 or 3 weeks, it looks like he was with Durango. And then back to Sioux Falls for a couple of weeks. And then spent about a month and a half in Venezuela after the season. So 5 jerseys, buddy.
What a year to be pitching in the Venezuelan Winter League.
Yeah, man. Oof, yikes.
Yeah.
Got friends in New York.
Speaking of which,
one might say. I did want to point out, by the way, Bryson Parks was another guy that I think is interesting. He's going to be in the outfield for that. He was with Jersey last year and the year before. He strikes out a good bit, we'll say. But he could, I think if they protect him well, if they put him in a good spot in the lineup and he's seeing strikes frequently, I think we could see him solidify himself as like a moving forward, a guy who's just an Atlantic League guy. I think he's really interesting. I think he put up good numbers. I don't think he was overly dependent on that ballpark either. So I think that's something to watch.
All right.
Don't let him steal. He had like 30, he went 34 for 39 stealing bases in 2024, and then went 26 for 37 in 2025. And it's like, all right, that's enough of that. Settle down.
You're right. This is kind of the end of the preview here. It's just a bonus episode, so we're not going to do too much else here today. I mean, if you have any other parting thoughts on any of the rosters, anything in general, I mean, now is the time to do that. And if not, then we'll be back at this in less than 24 hours to do a deeper breakdown of the game so far, the tryout experience, the news of the week, all of that.
I'll just put it out there. I'm going to go with. I think we'll still see Lancaster and York make it out of the North Division, but I think this is the last year of that happening. I think the Ducks are fully back next season. I think it's not much like last year, probably not for lack of, I don't know. Actually, I might back off that because Long Island does feel like they might have something. I'm going Long Island and York, make it out of the North. I do think York still beats them, but I think this is like the official announcement that Long Island's back. I think I'm going Gastonia and Charleston out of the South. My bold prediction. Ready for my bold prediction?
Mm-hmm.
I think High Point finishes fourth. And I think it's just going to be a weird thing of, I don't know if they have the depth to back up the guys I think that will potentially get signed. I think it's just a weird start. And I think it's not going to be a disastrous fourth. I think it's going to be, just enough for us to go, oh my God, like what's going on? Like Jamie Keefe and High Point. And then he's going to make us look so stupid next year. It's going to be brutal. I'm going to want to delete pods. So I'm just getting ahead of that now. And then I think,
I can see like fourth is very plausible. You figure Lexington's probably the last place team. If Southern Maryland just gets enough out of the pitching, which is again a wild sentence to say, I think the offense will be fine. It'll be good enough to go ahead and at least get ahead of them by like a couple of games. I don't know how the schedule looks, and depending on who wins the first half, also depends on how much you're really trying that much in the second half. So I could see it.
It's going to be tough for Southern Maryland to get it done. I think it's like, I could see them basically having the same record as High Point, and I just think it's a little bit High Point sliding back. I think a little bit, Southern Maryland outperforming what we think.
Yeah.
And sorry.
I was going to say, I'm going to follow you on Gastonia. I like them making the postseason. I think they're going to find a way there. For the sake of being different, I'm also going to take Southern Maryland in the South. I think they are a curious entity. And I feel like they have just enough magical BS to where they will find a way.
Yep.
I'm not going to be fooled by the mirage of the start that Hagerstown is doing, as much as I'd love to see them get in. I think that'd be fun. Plus, so far, they've been a fun team to watch, too, so I give them credit for that. But I am going to follow you on the North. I'm going to go Long Island on my first one, and I still believe in the second half Devil Magic of Lancaster. I don't know how much longer I believe in that, but for now, I am going to believe it. I think York's just going to kind of be almost in what I call the Bridgeport scenario, where you have the best overall record, and you're on the outside looking at the end of the year. Kind of like Long Island last year, where they should have been in over teams, but they wound up not being there.
Yes. Yeah, I think the base of my prediction on High Point, I think, comes down to like, I feel like, hold on, I'm like looking, I'm like, how did Gastonia do today?
I think they lost. They're tied 1-1 in the series.
Okay. Like, I think there's a chance that Gastonia gets some early wins on them. Southern Maryland plays they also play High Point early. Like, I think there's a chance that Southern Maryland with some new guys kind of blindsides some people. I don't know. I think it's going to be tough for. I'm looking at the second half for High Point, and there's a lot of opportunities for like they could be great, but they could also like have a tough skid. Like they got like for instance, they have a stretch of 3 against Lancaster. Actually, this one's pretty brutal. So they got 6 against. It's starting at the end of July. 6 against Charleston, who we've agreed they look like a problem. 3 against Hagerstown, who knows, but then 3 against Lancaster, 6 against Gastonia, 6 against York. I mean, that's a month of play right there where there's not much in the way of comfortable games. Then they have a week against Lexington, then finish with a week against Gastonia, a week against split between Charleston and Gastonia again. Like if High Point has any, depth issues or unexpected or signings that they're just having trouble backfilling, that there's about a month and a half there. It could be just hell down the stretch. And I think that's where you could start to see some weird stuff happen.
I could see it. I also just think at this point, I'm not comfortable projecting out schedules just because, everything can change so quickly.
I'm more looking at like Gastonia just tends to be a nightmare down the stretch like they were last year. There are certain matchups where I can kind of tell they tend to be a pain, and they have them on their calendar. So we'll see.
Yep. All right. Then I guess it's the part where we'll do some plugs and then get out of here. And I will worry about finishing up all this preview business at some point tomorrow. So if you want to plug things, because obviously you've been doing a lot of things, now's the time to do so for that.
Yeah. Indie Ball Nation on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and podcast platforms. Hopefully a website by next week. We'll see if I can get to a spot where I want to make it live. There should be 2 videos coming, wrapping up my prep process for that Frontier League tryout. And then this weekend, I think if I'm being really honest with myself, probably next week is when I'll put out the Frontier League tryout experience video of how I did and how that all went. And other than that, I will have preview content coming out. I will have a couple podcasts, quick hit YouTube videos talking about early season stuff. So just keep an eye out on kind of everything, and I'll be getting content out there as we go.
All righty. Indie Ball Pod, Twitter, Indie Ball Pro, everywhere else. Getting going on in-season stuff. Got to wrap up some preview stuff still. I got the article that should be hopefully up at the same time that this preview pod is up. Going to potentially get some videos with individual thoughts on the teams, although that's looking more and more like a distant thought now as we get further and further away from opening day here. And with the preview pod, it may just be a little bit redundant at this point. Gonna have episode 371 up in, I guess, 2 days when you listen to this, a day when you listen to it, whatever it is. That'll be a busy one, and we got some other stuff just going up here. And that's about all. So that's all for the preview pod. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll be speaking to you soon. But until then, don't forget to play